country cannot continue along this line. How can that man at his level, even if he has a problem, he cannot reach me and say, look, I'm sorry, see what I have. He will send soldiers to intimidate who? We are one from this country. And this is government.
That was FCT Minister Wike arguing with Naval Officer A.M. Yerima. Well, it's quite shameful that a top government official such as Wike will be involved in such a show of shame, and a lot of people have, reacted to that. But we're going to look at briefly how Peter Obi and burati reacted about it. Let's take Peter Obi's tweet, which reads, Wike versus Naval Officer, a lesson for national reflection. The recent needless altercation between the FCT Minister, His Excellency Barrister Wike, and a naval officer are yet another unfortunate reflection of the growing institutional disorder in our country. What should ordinarily be a routine civic encounter has once again become a national embarrassment. A typical example coming out of a disgraced country. I think Trump used that term. So beyond the personalities involved, this incident raises fundamental questions that demand honest national reflection. Should the military be used for purely civil operations? If proper protocols were in place, should a minister's intervention in such a matter be in such an indecorous manner? Shouldn't there be clear boundaries between administrative authority and the duties of security agencies? What does this say about our respect for institutions and the separation of power? Why are our men and women in uniform so often drawn into civilian disputes? Why has the culture of due process and civility given way to public spectacle and confrontation? If our institutions worked as they should, would tempers flare in situations that should be handled by clear procedure and hierarchy? Above all, what example do incidents like this set for our younger generation about leadership, discipline, and the rule of law? These are not just questions about one incident. They go to the very heart of how our nation is governed. When public officials act beyond institutional norms and when security agencies are used in ways that blur their professional boundaries, we weaken both governance and public trust. We must learn from this episode. It is time to rebuild a nation where institutions are stronger than individuals, where public office is exercised with humility and restraint, where the dignity of our uniformed officers and the rights of every citizen are upheld. A country that aspires to greatness and feels insulted when referred to as a disgraced nation must replace the culture of impunity with the discipline of law, order, and respect for due process repeatedly. I have maintained that to occupy an office and be referred to as His Excellency, distinguished, or honorable, how we get to such an office and our character and behavior while holding it or out of it should reflect such exemplary titles in all ramifications. A new Nigeria is possible. Peter Obi. That was Peter Obi's reaction to the incident. One other person that reacted to such posts on Facebook was the former Chief of Army Staff, Burati. In his Facebook account, he immediately responded to the incident, and this is what he said. He said, urgent action required as Minister Wike's conduct poses a clear threat to national security. He says, this event of November 11, 2025 involving the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Barrister Nyesom Wike, demand an immediate and serious response. His public disparagement of a uniformed officer of the Nigerian Armed Forces transcends mere misconduct. It represents a palpable threat to national security and institutional integrity. A minister's verbal assault on a military officer in uniform is an act of profound indiscipline that strikes at the core of our nation's command and control structure. It deliberately undermines the chain of command, disrespects the authority of the commander-in-chief, and grievously wounds the morale of every individual who serves under the Nigerian flag. Such actions erode the very foundation of discipline upon which our national security apparatus stands. This cannot be dismissed as political threat. It is a reckless endangerment of national order. This action by Wike is clearly an indication of undermining the federal government's authority. Consequently, Barrister Nyesom Wike must tender an immediate and unequivocal public apology to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu as Commander-in-Chief, the entire armed forces of Nigeria, and the specific officer whose honor was violated. Our nation's security must come first. It is time for decisive action, not politics of military bashing. The integrity of our armed forces demands nothing less. Tukur burati. Now that was how Tukur burati responded to the incident. Well, we've heard so much. Reports says that the 30-hectare parcel of land in Gaduwa district of Abuja was originally allocated to serving and retired military personnel. Now it is claimed that Wike revoked the allocation and changed the land use designation from being a park and recreation area to multipurpose, and then reissued the right of occupancy to other individuals, reportedly to his political friends and associates, and not the original allottee military personnel. So some of the original allottee, which are the military officers, say they had partly developed the land and were somehow aggrieved by the revocation. Well, a specific case to mention is a former chief of naval staff, Awal Gambo, who is cited as having, vested interest in the land and affected by the redesignation. Well, Wike's team say that the land was not properly allocated for residential purposes in the first place, and that the redesignation had been misused. He said, for example, the land was said to have been designated for park, not residential use. Well, we all know that Wike went to that same site with his officials and with the bulldozers to bring down some of those structures, and he was thereby resisted by the naval officer over there. Many residents of Abuja are victims of Wike's land grabbing antics and also destruction of properties, because he feels they are not in the original plan of Abuja. So we've had so many victims, and Wike has had so many court cases from these people, court order restraining him from carrying such acts, but he still goes ahead to bring down those buildings. He still goes ahead to take over those lands from those people, challenging them that they don't have the right document, or they are not following the right plan, the master plan for Abuja. So we've had a lot of cases like that involving Wike in the past few months. So it's not new to us. Well, this issue has gone viral, and a lot of Nigerians have been discussing about it. Some obviously support the professionalism and the character of naval officer A.M. Yerima, because his conduct was really good. So many have spoken about Wike's arrogance and his unruly behavior towards uniformed men. Well, this is something that he needs to think about as an individual. And again, I think the president too should speak on this issue because it's quite an important issue. Being him being the commander in chief of the armed forces and having Yesom Wike as minister of the FCT, which is a very, very important role in his government. So he needs to release a press statement, talking about the incident and either condemning it or, see how he can bring, like give perspective to these issues so that Nigerians can move on and learn from this. That's what true leadership should look like. And he can as well demand a level of accountability from both his minister and show some respect to the armed forces because they really do a lot for Nigerians, and we need to honor their service and show them such level of respect. It's an issue that he shouldn't shy away from. The presidency shouldn't shy away from such an important issue so that we'll know that we've moved on from it and see how going forward it doesn't repeat itself anymore. This is Impact Media. Please do feel free to share your thoughts about this issue in the comment section. See you next time. Thank you.